Welcome back to FEDA, the Emblem of Justice. It's time for Chapter 4, where the party has a ship headed for a remote island where their empire is keeping Andira Balzark, the father of the liberation movement, held captive. The party has also been made aware of a massive laser cannon that will blast anyone who gets close, so the first order of business is to put that laser cannon out of commission. First things first, of course, we have to actually land on the island. Before that, though, Brian and McDougal exchange war stories. Brian tells us all about how he saved Tusk's life back when they were on the front lines fighting for the Empire, which is how Brian got that scar on his... Well, where is it on his head exactly? On his left cheek by the look of that portrait. Anyways, McDougal tells us all about that time he died in a war. Oh, McDougal, you're such a troll. It's rather charming when you suddenly start talking like a tough old sea dog. Tough old sea dog. Canine puns. I am entertaining! Oh no, you've gotta be kidding me. More sand? Just because it's a beach instead of a desert doesn't make it better. Well, to be fair, at least they give us a patch of grass to stand on that won't tank our defense stats. You have to kill everything on the screen yet again, so go with the usual tactics for this battle. I haven't had a chance to switch Jada into the party yet, so Shane's still the only flyer here for now. The enemy flyers are harder for Shane to take out in one hit now. I got lucky when Shane landed a critical hit. Not really sure how those work, I just see the extra damage. People have asked for a deeper explanation of the game mechanics, but there isn't really that much going on there. You take enemies down to 0 health and they die. If there's some deeper workings to the combat mechanics here, I really don't see it at all. A good 15 minutes later, I decide to check in at the party camp. I haven't talked about the camp yet because it's pretty simple. You come here to save the game, manage items, and swap out party members, and you're even able to rename them all to your liking, so you can spell everyone's names however you wish. You can also change the window color, so I hope nobody minds if the windows are now blue for a little while. The camp looks like a simple camp in the first 2 chapters, but it's a big liberation barracks thereafter, with 2 guys named Wishbone and Jim Shorey managing things for you. Can't really tell what these 2 are. Dogs? Ponies? I'll figure it out one of these days. So, while I'm managing all this, I'll talk about a mechanic that hasn't come yet because I haven't lost anyone in battle. Losing a character in FEDA is not permanent. Instead, they are captured by the enemy. To get them back, you'll have to mount a rescue operation, which involves a simple battle with only Brian and McDougal against a whopping 3 useless enemies that give 5 EXP each. It's stupidly easy, and it's always the same stupid base no matter what chapter you're in, but the ranking system punishes you for taking on unnecessary battles, which the game considers rescue operations to be. Except, well, one single rescue operation is all it takes to get every character back that you've lost, so this system is not without its flaws despite how unique it is. I mean, you're probably okay with this quote-unquote penalty if you're doing a Chaos playthrough anyways. So we enter a village, and the talk of the town is that the Empire is trying to conscript a poor, defenseless healer, so it's time for us to intervene after a short shopping trip. The next battle tasks you with taking down a pair of stormtroopers. No, really, they're actually called stormtroopers. And drawing them away from their main forces is simple enough. Brian can get in range rather easily, so I'll use this battle to talk about the 3 new characters we've got now that I've swapped them into the party. First up is Jenny. Jenny is a centaur like Chris, and uses the same weapon type and has the same amount of movement. Sadly, Jenny isn't nearly as much of a tank as Chris is, so I tend not to put her in any real danger, and she has no combat arts either. Still, lots of movement is good, I just wish she had an interesting trick up her sleeve. Every unit needs one of those, right? Next up is Jeddah. Jeddah is a dragoon, a knight that rides on a dragon. And you don't want to mess with him either. Jeddah himself uses the same weapon type as Shane and has the same movement range and type, but Jeddah has an actual combat art. He can command his dragon to breathe thunder. It's rare to see a dragon breathing something other than fire or ice, but it's cool and does great damage depending on enemy elemental resistances, so be sure to check those out before going for it. Last but not least is Shishimaru. Not a whole lot to say about him compared to Jedha. He's got the same weapon type as McDougal and fills a similar role aside from two things. One, Shishimaru isn't nearly as squishy as McDougal, and two, his combat art is ranged unlike McDougal's. A pretty good addition to your team overall, and he's available in all playthroughs. Oh, and naturally, the enemy isn't attracted to him like a magnet, considering his death doesn't cause a game over. Speaking of available in all playthroughs, we meet up with a healer whose name is Aria. For some reason, she wants to save Andira Balzark just like us, and get off the island she's been stuck on. So she joins the party regardless of rank, but I've always thought Eris was the better healer. Aria has the full party healing spell Eris does, and even has a unique spell that gives her MP away to another party member, and Aria is much better defensively, but she lacks some of the additional utilities Eris has, and her MP isn't as good. At least from what I remember. I might have to give her a second look in this playthrough. So we force the guard into dropping the bridge for us. Why did we need Aria to come with us to get the guy to drop the bridge? I don't know. Unfortunately, there are enemies on the other side, which means it's time for a fight. On the bridge. A clash on the big bridge, you might say. By the way, I hate bridge battles in FEDA. The next part of the chapter is hilarious. Let me explain how it works. You'll notice there's a big circle with enemies patrolling the area. If one collides with you, sort of like the Hammer Brothers in Super Mario Bros. 3, you get in a fight and have to kill all the enemies, which you'd think would be there to threaten your rank, but no, it turns out you can escape the encounters and suffer absolutely no consequence. I'm dead serious. If you just flee every encounter on your way up to the fortress where Andira is being held, you won't have to fight any of them whatsoever, preserving your rank and your free time. And that pretty much sums up a major issue I take with this ranking system. Your rank goes down when you kill too much and get into unnecessary fights, so it would make sense for killing everything to take less time and reward you with more EXP and money, and it is true that more kills means more money. But for everything else, it's usually the opposite. Not killing enemies means less combat, meaning less time spent on animations you can't skip, and completing objectives gives the whole party an EXP boost anyways. Indeed, getting a high rank is both easier and saves time. It's maps like the next one that play into the system well for the wrong reason, because if I had just killed everyone in this map, that'd have been faster than getting a unit, any unit at all, to the control panel on the top right to open the gate into the fortress. It's guarded by wizards, so cast the magic shield on Shane before sending him up there, and try not to fall asleep as all the other units take their turns on this overly large battlefield. To contrast, the battle after that gets it right for the right reasons. It's a defense map, and though you'd probably love to hole up in the corner and drag it out until you win, the enemies have lots of ranged attacks, lots of flyers, lots of stuff you'd probably want to get rid of to make your job easier, yet more kills means a threat to your rank. Unless of course you're going for a low rank anyways, which leads to you getting different, potentially better characters. This system is weird, okay? That's it, it's just weird. Anyways, it turns out we have a man on the inside that infiltrated the base. He is a panther named Arby, and that name makes me think of the restaurant chain that serves roast beef. And then we have McDougal, who also reminds me of a restaurant chain. Oh man, are we getting a girl named Wendy next? Or a Burger King? How about a Chicken Pope? Or is that what Shane is? Anyways, we need to knock out the power to the giant laser so the Liberation's cargo dragon can fly in and extract us when we've got Andira in our custody. Arby gets to work on the generator downstairs. You can actually go down there and watch, but there's no point. This leaves us with knocking out the generator upstairs, which means taking out every single enemy. Every single weakling enemy, guarding what I'm fairly certain is the biggest map yet. It's so wide open and full of tight corridors. Look, I know I seem to be dumping on this game a lot, but there really are several fundamental design mistakes here. I still consider it a gem, and remember, it had to be successful in its day. There's a remake on the Saturn, and a sequel on the PlayStation, and there's even a radio drama and arranged soundtrack, but come on, I'm allowed to comment on the long battles and big maps, right? I mean, I could rag on Final Fantasy IX for hours, and that game's still the best in the series to me. Wait, I get no EXP for that battle? But the mission was to kill all the enemies, and I did that. Oh well. With the laser cannon out of commission for now, we can mount our rescue of Andira, and if your rank is high, Arby comes along for the ride as well. There's not going to be much time to talk about him though, because the next battle, which you have to re-enter the fortress to get to, by the way, is absolutely broken in every respect. But I have to put Arby in the party anyways, because Chapter 5 starts with 2 battles you have to take on with no chance to switch party members, so I have to set them up how I want them right now before we get into those battles. So what does the last battle of Chapter 4 have? Well, the mission is to eliminate the boss who's way in the back, that our flyers can fly over the water and avoid literally all the enemies to get to because the underground cave has a river or some kind of pool of water going through it. Wow, that was anticlimactic. Reminds me of Chapter 15 from Fire Emblem Awakening, which I cleared in one turn by killing the boss with a Falconite. Or it could also be like the final battle of Advance Wars 2, which you can win by sending an eagle with a single bomber to drop the death ray in one hit. You'd think the designers of these chapters would consider these possibilities when designing the map, you know? So we free Andira from the prison, and I'm actually not really sure what he's supposed to be. The portrait makes me think of a saber-toothed tiger given what appear to be fangs. Anyways, with him freed, the Liberation's morale is sure to be better than ever, though Andira raises the issue of whether the Liberation Army, and by extension Brian, can be considered the good guys. Well, to be totally honest, we know little of what Brian was like in the Balformian army. The game started when he deserted after they bombed a village full of innocents. Yes, of course we're the good guys here. You're asking this now? The only enemy that had any shred of honor was the battalion in the previous chapter that specifically went out of their way to avoid causing collateral damage to the civilians with their fighting. Then again, I realize I don't actually know of any difference in these cutscenes if you're doing a chaotic playthrough. I can imagine the scene being different and not having all this talk about justice and stuff if the player had a really, really low ranking, but I can't say for sure because doing a chaotic playthrough is honestly not that appealing to me. Well, we saved him, we're on the cargo dragon, now we just have to await what comes in Chapter 5 next time on my Let's Play of FEDA, the Emblem of Justice.